Guru Me Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Me Namo Buddhaya Namo Dharamaya Namo Sanghaya Namo Guru Namo Buddhaya Namo Namo Sanghaya Kande Laje Wenje Do Kane Raga Josa Bonde Chonde Anje Chöye Nyamo Gönye Lo Santa Seda Jeba Nede Jezo Dönye Nanga Senje Bende Jeze Lama Yebe Zonbai Talon Debe Sona Deba Yeje Geya Jozo Jeje Jenge Jave Loke Gezana Ve Yeyo Le Jeso Tabe Ge La Me Zebe Tode Tebe Tode La Chance Ye Wo Je Ye Na Zo Me Do Da Je Je Do Me Na Ze Je Ja So Mo Ja Ye Je 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 Ja Zo Je So La Je Jo Je La Amen Kaje Do Me Je Ne San Ba Ye Le Ma Ye Je Me Ga Je Je Ba Je Ba Ra Do Ba Zo Je Me De Ye Ne Je Ba Ja Be So Zo Ja Ye Me De De Ma De Do She Je Ba Me Da Jo De Ye Je Bo Je Je La Je De La La Da Jo San Ba Ai Be Ye Ra Je Ze La Ma Da Ra Je La She Ge Ka La Je Shala so Dagi Shishi Jibe Sonanje Rola Peje Sanje Roba Sho Sanje Sheda Zoye Shonala Rajoba Dani Dagi Shishi Jibe Sonanje Rola Peje Sanje Roba Sho Sinje Tamje Don Toja Lana Vayanda was Dola Sanje Komoran was Jin Tabashi Tishi, the Tambi Shir Sanyam. Let's
take a moment to cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it bodhicitta motivation or altruistic motivation, seeking complete enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And with that kind of motivation, we should all participate in this Lamrim teaching on the stages of path leading to enlightenment by Manjushri Lama Tsongkhapa. Allow me to read about a page or two from this great Lamrim text, volume number 2 in the English translation of the Lamrim, page 133, to give you the blessing of oral transmission first, followed by explanation.
Lui Shala Sava Long Kaje, Yoma Minji, Savaji, Maji Paradu, Luna Damage de Labdule, Kongi, Joran, Jubi, Ti, General Shaking Shan, Kondi, Tobashole, Jiwam, Jiwam, Yung, Burzomba. Mobile use Mamma no Shaka Eleno Zamba de Perno, Rangi Shajabalas of the wound, this Jena Lui, Chin Meji. When you do my Rayon so Javale and Top City, Shinton Sinjata Lo Shangju, Sim, the Lo Shangju Simba. Georgia Shansim, Choju Sim, Sabon Shusi, which is Hombo, Shambo, Shoes on your teacher, Power, and Games, Dolly. Tuma one de Bane, do ye to you, my button de Bane, do ye so here's with the Junju Lake. Nisman Mata, Paraluna, Tome, de Gentleman, de Don Tom Shendu, you down. Hero go by going down to go about 10 days to lose down Medante, 10 late ambition is will change the name. Tedajino Sinji, somebody does over Geshe, Tomboni, Senala, Sabajin, Beget, and Shandoni, Matana, Sinji, Mongo, Tom, go by Chevy, saying, Lava Soba, no amazing lava soldiers over Shandon, Rana was never you. Shedu should be Shedu Luna, Zamaya, Nivation, like Zimba Mizo, Lumobigoni, Jindu, Miron. Do you regala, dear Lambesim, Totsambe, Sambe, and Lala Soba, Luna, Majin, Teta, Yellow Navy, Sheru. Nyumba da Simatoba Namanje, Lona Mede David Simatabani, Loma, Inji, Laduzam, Diversive, Tedani, Machine to Meba Masike, Machine, the Machine Matoma Meba Mazivation, Tonjero Teta Madobe. So Lujin, Luton, Jin, Long, La Jimba Chadi, Dayana, loss of seeing him, but Shanton Shantin Jay, Gaba Drevis, the train, the one also Nekaba, Anjay, Chi, Mobo, Medon, 多么的结巴写巴了你写我没对没写的写我对没写了同不能啊。旅居国内原今天没人问那边的绕行当年见了学主还是带我到今天一九个你们今天没人问那总见了我可能了谁手的见了谁我们那个不是今晚带我等相见等现在的就把他那这个保险。可别啥东西的带我当国中当下没在去香港没等我等得到人要啥东西我对讲，在龙学对没容易当不等不了过不了说我得到给，哎爸爸带我当我当了我里边的大这经我搞我就讲名字我的内心等我什么能等我出去那个。西巴没事吧？今个吧，那么就弄完了，不等嘛，真了，我说吧，对我等啥东没做吧，等我这就睡没事吧。弄完了你把的，到我这不，你把的，到我这吧，等还讲西巴些人，张别些，张别还是别说我弄睡吧弄完的，到这我等没得些来嘛。目的是为两个车路吧，等你们就从西边对我买把脑筋别的就弄，你们到上山了，到松巴你们接不是强势，那不等了吧？对我来说，我现在我这把现在这个学习你不嘛？其实吧，弄么前面写了吧，前面那个先把先弄，看那么多等接不觉着，在那里前面写着。现在老外现在看那么多，我这帮叫做给的大个问题，学什么能自己学不都没法等，小女生也不知道。可能心几月几把些，那你们看那么多，我没都给的准备去了，大着准备，你们没这个钱，这边电视剧，你们了，特别新鲜呢。第一个这是就把第一个是年第什么了，多不是第什么老吧老那多不金把这个些怎么行了，这个金把行那看那么多的这玩意儿，全就是为你们第什么了，那第什么了那多吧这样。这样起的上去几个送着一个这就把我们当你几个讲，你不看那用水洗把它下去。现在来呀嘛，你不看那找不着，我给他你不没这个，这边你不没这把弄，你不没这把弄。结果那么上去虽然被抬了问题被去了，这一下些用水吃完下地被给的，总的用水我弄个结果小些现在上去是被给的为你们的去以为打工些吧些那你，这了基本没这个领导那么领导那人讲不说我给的人没得那你个没进讲，看到么多没得给的学运动对吧？打工些吧没那你真的讲。天天我这用手弄个脚把前面接着两天也先把这我天现在给的凶险对吧？你把这玩对接着弄了，马先生我看到么多凶险对吧？你把这我让对吧那个，其他我现在凶真对吧？对吧？那样这些弄我凶前边的跑个这玩对吧？接着弄了呢。马先生我地看到么多我叫这把小我写着我点几百个你们兄弟们这问。让你来我这边过把这些吧，点些个你就进去没人玩，你们让你来就那这把这个，先把没了我提了我身子提了我身体别这么样，没别这些问题，乱了你不么带我找不问题进去没人别就这呢。去以前把特别前把你们过把什么考什么了，我这边这里呢。我这边这里那么钱吧，老板胳膊钱嘛，你老不愿意，钱吧老板没这是没钱吧了，胳膊这个老板也这边钱吧，老板没这是怎么胳膊挡不住，没给写的， Jere debe da rang la wa se ni we te ma me we se ne we ni mu se me go ba da nga ma chi no ma yi shi so mo du tong. Chen da xin bo min ju wa da ma xin no ma sim ji ta ma ji we lo pen ba da ma de we shi yi shi ye so ju bi we sim ji ne de da ma sim ji xin ta ma ji we ga wa ra shi ye nu. 现在就不搞我脏啊，脏人比些肉，接着肉上色的，我把切中啊，得到送行种出来，将我兄切的前面的些送，马现在你把没把脏嘛，没把脏嘛嘛一弄，就没进别说呢，得去了没进弄，现在冷不，希望嘛一地嘛一地，他把给别到这那边，多么我。 다 건저 쉬어야 되리 성주와 커서 김바동동 다 되리야 강지 지동 배 소리 동부군 류룽주가 그 단계에서 탐지에 살아시 다 탐지에 양 카드 애니 고바 주제 미동하게 내가 비어레시 다 되게 애니 디레지 배는 저도 디레지는 애니 그게 소소한 거네 애니 준 디레지 동조 말했어요 양 진유고는 미동하서 다 되는 방식 마탄다 시조로 와 시디 간지 가다 집어도 뒤져야 되려다.
So we left off where we started to talk about things related to the practice of giving or generosity. And one of the things that I explained is this, that as we engage in Bodhisattva's way of giving, there is a commitment to dedicate everything one has for the well-being of others. Everything means literally everything, including what we call one's body, resources included. Now that being said, we also have to be smart, if you will, when to give and not to give. Because we can talk about inappropriate giving, in terms of, from the point of view of time, or inappropriate giving from the perspective of the gift itself and so forth. So when we say that bodhisattvas are committed to giving everything for a sentient being, it does not mean they will do it under all circumstances and all of that, because sometimes inappropriate time, and so they know that they are smart not to do that or to give whatever it is.
동보에 다 치고 나오고보다 치고 보니 나오고보다 다 샤라라서 보더라. 시다 샤라라서 장소레 동보에 가서 메동 갑을 간제세나 애니 류땅에서나 애니 인지 삼바마다 바데 베동인도 마도 오세네 애니 류땅할 때는 인중 이중 와서도 와. 시다 셈베게 다 부스도 간지 장시 셈 동양 인가 차르고로. 어 진짜 내가 설 인동조 말이야. 장시 레 동보에 봐. 어디 동야 매우 가르쳐 랍듀레 송캬스 다 랍듀디 피제 디인지레 예지 시와레 랍듀스야죠 어디로 강 교주 존주 지저 이제는 강그 dob숑을레 숑을레 지어 뒤리는 보도 좀바 뭐바 용수 뭐미바 샤가에 레는 좀바데 베는 랑게 샤진발라서 봤다고 근데 심진은 류친심의我也基本用是这把轮到把谁的，现在那身边的高啊，这咋了？上去给三把教这位，上去三级，少不去三位，其实日不不行不去少完教了，现在最开始呢，但是绿党啊，点的，那这个别个绿别个开始啥，农业个，那别个一这不老，上去是当完这不直接什么人呢？那让先从这边看看，他没用处没有少咋着吧？现在的开始国外来搞这些呀，这我的动作嘛，这是吧？
So actually, Kishla, based on the Tibetan text reading, in English translation, volume number 2, we are on page 131, where there's mention of bodhisattvas. When we think about what are the things that they could dedicate and give others, they can be classified into two kinds. The traditional classification is things. How is this translated here? Let me see. It doesn't matter how they translated. So things that are associated with one's mind stream, we call internal things, for lack of a better word in English, and the outer things or external things, the things which are not directly conjoined with your mind or consciousness. That's how the classifications are. And so things associated with one's stream of mind means one's body, right? That's related to one's body. For ordinary bodhisattvas on the beginner's level, so to speak, although they are dedicated to benefit others and they want to give everything, they dedicate even their body and resources to others, but they're also smart enough not to, practice that giving under wrong circumstances at wrong time. Okay? And so what are those, like time that's inappropriate for, let's say, giving one's body or parts of the body or whatever the case may be, for an ordinary beginner level of bodhisattvas? As Geshe explained, that so long as your compassion is not really trained well in terms of its purity, right? Your compassion is sort of uncontaminated, right? Then you are not going to do crazy things. Well, it doesn't say crazy in the text, but you get the idea. And also, until you realize, the ultimate nature of things or the emptiness, okay? They may not do that. The reason is that because it puts you through a lot of difficulties and maybe pain and suffering if you're going to give parts of your body or even the whole body. And should that pain and suffering be so intolerable that it must overwhelm you and you might feel very disheartened and disappointed, right? You say, oh my gosh, what crazy thing I did, right? Well, then that might affect the losing your compassion and bodhicitta, right? Oh, I shouldn't have done that. It was too bad. Whatever. So that's too bad. So under that circumstances, what we call the prohibition is more important than fulfilling the purpose. The fulfilling the purpose is you want to dedicate everything to benefit others, including your body. But under those circumstances, the prohibition is when you are not ready, your compassion is not pure enough or trained well, and you are not really going to be able to tolerate parting your body, and that suffering might even make you lose your determination, interest. Under those circumstances, prohibition is much more important than fulfilling the purpose of giving everything to sentient beings.
어디 가서 영저로 뒤시로 파파당근 저긴 돌에 뒤마에번 되바니 뒤길래서 해송도 해 junjuleji 인지 삼마다 류기 되던 메제 진는데다 현다디 통신주비 교통고 해소사 데다 나가도 도서야 되네 이니 그라 뒤마에번 류당에는 지가서 딜레스는 가다 다 람주비 파제 딜레스 거와 원도진 딜레스 시로 샤저와 건지 처주비 파제에 딜시가 대세가 딜레스 거 제가 다 뒤마에 버티게 이제 상황 마다 땅바이나 인 코티 류땅할 때 등에지 마서베셰 인 코 장심 땅하시는 인 코 딜레라래요 와 코티 마땅하시는 그런 게 친구 강한 냠들 렌토도 신 야도 있는 인도바상지를 해다 동마로와 제가 딜레이나 내가 제가 니 다다 난가듯이 애니 조주래자 인제상 마다바된 류땅 머리 수사그래 송도 어디 GSTDL was.
So in the middle of page 131, volume number 2 in the English translation, we have quite a substantial passage quoted from I think Shantideva's compendium of training or Shiksha Samuksha, and also from a sutra called Questions of Sky Treasure Sutra, followed by stanza citation from engaging in the bodhisattva deeds or activities. So in all of those things, what is really emphasized under those circumstances, a prohibition rule, so to speak, is much more important than your commitment to give everything to sentient beings. As Geshe explained that, there is a one-line statement from Questions of Sky Treasure Sutra, which reads, I quote, ultimately, wishes are demonic activity. So that needs explanation. What it means is when you are not ready, you meaning first level bodhisattvas, your compassion is not strong enough. It's not pure enough, right? And if you do crazy things and give your body, that's understanding, consider that as being a demonic activity or Mara's, influence. The demon or the Mara too here really means, it is an obstacle, on your spiritual path leading to enlightenment, right? If you do something you're not ready, and then you're going to get disappointed by everything, and then you regret for having things you've done, now you are, instead of moving closer to the enlightenment, you are going to go backward, and it's a demonic activity, right? The Mara's blessing there. So you don't want that, okay? Instead of doing that crazy thing when you're not ready, better to practice the other perfections or the part of perfections that you find it convenient to practice, and you're happy, and it'll bring you closer to enlightenment, rather than get stuck, or pushed back. So that's very important for us to understand. As Geshe mentioned, that in Maitriya's ornament for clear realizations, or Abhisamaya Alankara, there are mention of as many as 46 demonic activities or Mara's actions. So this means these are the actions listed as being obstacles to, on the way to enlightenment, or obstacles for spiritual growth. So this could be one of them. When you're not ready, Bodhisattva first level, your compassion not strong enough, you are very stuck with your commitment, and you do the crazy thing, and you regret, and you are disappointed, and you are heartbroken, so it is going to be bad. It's a disaster, in the making, so don't do that. So prohibition is more important than fulfilling the commitment. Keep the commitment, but don't do the crazy thing.
Da gobe ko da tan de no goba chen de che de le me dan te tinye le jun ju le mi ba. Ta be shu yi shu ne je be le chen zi che de ne me sha te da shi ne sim jen ye sa ma ni du zo ba de xie so xie zo e de goba chen zi ge da be ge chen sa zan ru de zi kan za ta ga si ge ta na ru kan je ko lu tang wa be ge je ba tang wa da ma da ni ke bien de bu xie na ma da ya ge wo tin de ge 카둘라 인도 동지와 말이스. 제가 제가 기타시는 저 걸사 담배시의 주민 뉴스 제가 류당선 담배시 저 리든데 돌아 당하셔 왔다 근데 류 샤다 당배게자 다 근데 전요지 당하데 요르디 다데 샤다 당배게자 있어와 어디 제가 들어 말이지 코로 있는 소도 비게 걸사 애니 옹보스나다 소도 비게 내당 박배 냐련시의 제시 제발라 비잖아 in new dia in the same year so somebody to go race what is that
so we are still on page 131. So first is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time. So at the wrong time, don't do the wrong crazy things, and so that's a prohibition rule. Better keep that rule, rather than implement one's commitment to give the flesh and bone and body to others. Now that's followed by inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of purpose. Okay? What this means is, bodhisattvas should not sacrifice their body or parts of the body, flesh and bones, for a very insignificant or lesser purpose. Just to make somebody happy. This whatever person, whoever it is. Don't give the body or part of the body and just make one person happy. Or for some, well, I don't know, maybe it's a cool thing. I just never had that new experience, sense of novelty. Let me try that one, right? Don't do that for a small or insignificant or lesser kind of a purpose. By doing that, you destroy your body, life that's so precious, foundation for your whole spiritual development, right? And if you lose your body, then all that spiritual development is gone along with it. So you better cherish your body and practice other perfections that you are capable of practicing, right, without doing crazy, disastrous things here. and that will bring you much closer to enlightenment. So there is a quote from Shantideva's Engaging in the Deeds of Bodhisattva at the bottom of page 131, which reads, for something trifling, do not harm your body, which is for practicing the sublime teachings. In this way, you will quickly fulfill the aims of living beings. So instead of sacrificing one's part of the body for an insignificant or out of curious George kind of attitude, he didn't say in the Lamrim, but that works. Use your body, cherish your body, and do the other practice so that you will come closer quickly to enlightenment.
Rong because that Lu Tang ya le pig the Senna Chiman the San me don't to you na any pig you don't say the Kansa Kashi Yunji Pengu Yabishe Madan and the Kansa Mambu Tom Shimbu Shuto Yuna in the Gazaguba Shijungan in the Luton Joma.
So the point here is, let's say you or a bodhisattva is very capable of giving parts of the body, the whole body. Say, there's no problem. Your compassion is strong, it's very pure, you are determined, you can take it, right? But even then, if the purpose is lesser kind, for say like one person or handful of people, don't do that. Right? If you realize that by cherishing your body and protecting it and nourishing it, you could benefit many more individuals and fulfill greater purpose, then you do not, even if you are very capable, sacrifice your body or parts of the body for the sake of one or few or lesser purpose.
So当让人那边你这些的修学的弄呢，人性这样，人性这样，人家现在基本没效果，我弄不过这里他，看见。比如说刚才比如动员着用是看的这个那旅这个那快递下达就是比那个是旅行说那旅比下达嘛下午是吧？现在天天个动员用啊，从他说的是吧？这是我的动员用啊，从他天天个现在那这了那人性这样那真叫嘛的是，但是那老不过呢，那用不可是吧？没用呢，旅一的拉是那旅一的拉是的他可是他。我些个我就是超过，是吧？我可是他你个人聊那对下过的，你这话聊那个话吧？其实他的可是，你那边是他别个你个世界，他的两边说的有吧？我他上班是那个人，你把进的是吧？你把进的我这个老人呢，我这得叫嘛的是吧？他你那边写着是，我这边能看出来他。인이 코로나 누구 그 사번 나고 놓은 거 봐. 사번 나고 놓은 데 사번 나고 내가 대 제비는 엔 콘솔 비게 인성 저 교샤고 봐. 그 대다 니 네베 셔로세. 뇽바당 심주바 남제 제 로나 메데 대다 그 삼바탁번 로 마인제 라디오 좀 디세비 셔로세. 대다 뇽바가 가서 거나다 뇽바세 다심 비게 르조 마진 장고 계절 차샤요 말봐. 뭐 차샤 메잔 거 가르선 대 샬롱은 대교 말이 제베는 거 페드가 말이 그걸 삼로는 비게 니제 페주시고 상여데 가가요 말봐. 어디 라디오가 디네 대교 말이시. 대단히 마신 동안에 마신 신의 동안 좋아서 대다 다다 때면서 뒤에 대와시는 동안 중 그래 마신의 동안에 봐 마세 엔베 야고요 그래서 그러.
So when on page 132, where this mention of not sacrificing one's body for the wrong reasons, because that only end up harming oneself without fulfilling greater purpose. Then the next one is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of the one who asked for something. In other words, inappropriate giving from the point of view of receivers or the ones who asked for, right, gift. And according to Geshe's explanation, that should what we call demonic beings, how should I say, ask for your flesh and bone or a body, then you should not give that. Well, now the challenge is, who are the demonic beings, right? Of course, sometimes demons are described in explicit terms, as if we can, if they are in front of us, we know you are the demon. Watch out, I know that. But the demonic deities are like their emanations. They can come in a very sweet form, probably, right? And then you don't know these are demons. They really look like sweet beings, okay? And they could, influence you and give, ask for such gift. And so one must not give one's precious body to them. Or because maybe sometimes people who ask for them, not necessarily they need your body, but they have their own agenda and harmful intention, right? They just don't want you to succeed in your spiritual purpose, right? So then they say, hey, nice, can you give me this? And then we goof and give it. And so it's going to be harmful to ourselves and no use to them. Another explanation, part of the explanation given is if lunatics, crazy people, literally gone crazy, okay, ask for the body, we must not give because they can ask for anything, and because they're crazy. And then if you give something, it's no use to them, right? Because they have no use. They're just simply sad. They even don't have control over their mind, and so we are not going to sacrifice our body for them. And so the bottom line, the important thing is we talk about some of these restrictions, or I call it prohibitions, the gakcha in Tibetan, right? We use the term prohibition, gakcha, restriction, and a purpose, fulfilling. So we always have to negotiate the dialectics between fulfilling the purpose and abiding by the prohibition rules. So under such circumstances, wrong time, wrong recipients, and wrong lesser purpose, we must follow more the prohibition rule. By doing that, we are not going to indulge in the transgressions of our commitment, right? And by keeping our body and cherishing and doing the practice we could do, we are able to prosper in our spirituality, right? But if we kind of don't pay attention to the prohibition rules under those circumstances, give our bodies, as a matter of fact, that becomes a transgression of our commitments, because we are doing crazy things, So it's very important for us to understand, those distinctions, when we should give, when we should not give. So we should understand the dialectics between prohibition rules and fulfilling bodhisattva commitment.
对，但是那东没学的也他也是那东西他过是我吧，是推一个推是不是，你不怎么妈咪讲的这样这些，那个把这个天津的带进在那里样，说都也没有这些，到底的开始，现在个娘是个有一个节目说娘做那样说这，那别个对这边说这不的，我的娘别说了，听这个现在呢，个有可能下对呢，那偏偏头嘛，这是来着吧。但今天个讲的在里面呢，因为旅经过的，他们讲今天什么当时是吧？但旅经啊，这个是第二来呀，因为但他写完那一些，他旅经的什么都做的，经验那一些，旅别个下别个大部分谁呢？经常写的，然后说是别个现在个成药这不去别个现个成药的呀，人的经验，你个经验是吧？我这里你有人，你就看看。Just
to summarize what we just talked about is, yes, bodhisattvas, especially the first level bodhisattva beginners, have made a commitment to give everything they have, to and for others, but they must know under what circumstances, they should not just go crazy with their commitment and, make the wrong decisions and take the wrong actions and steps. And those are the wrong time. Okay? If the time is not right, we already talked about that, your compassion is not strong enough, it's not pure enough, right? And you are going to regret, afterwards, that's the wrong time, so don't do it. Okay, they should know. Because by following the prohibition rule, you are fulfilling the you are keeping your vow. Otherwise, you're going to transgress your commitment. Another thing is, even if you are very capable of giving it, everything, but if it's for a lesser purpose, for a handful of people, don't do it. By keeping your body and cherishing it, nourishing it, you can benefit much more, many more people and much greater purpose. Then you have to think about that greater purpose, right? And then the recipients, we don't know their intention. They just ask you for something out of the fun, or they just want to test you, right? Or they're just crazy people. Or maybe they are the emanations of the demonic beings, pretty smiling demonic beings. Don't give flesh and bone and parts of your body. So if we know when not to give, these inappropriate givings due to time, due to lesser purpose, due to the wrong recipients, then we know when to give, when we are ready, and all of that. So it helps us to be able to follow Bodhisattva's giving.
다 그래서 뉴진도 답에 샤다 상계지는데 제가 돈 비야체 다들 많이 벌게 지야되다 남 중간저때 그래서 다게로부터 빠진 거 가자칼에 여러 와 류도 농주 강가 비세 피야디다 군조리야 피야디 군조기다 샤다 농지가 말봐 그때 되게 군조 가르 그게 가서 창례도 가르쳐서 심지어 그 통조야 돼 심지어 사이살 거야 된다 군조 그게 랭게로 شه 그래서 다디 현도로야 그야 차이에도 로과셔네 실이야 부인 그럼 심지어 통지와라 진짜 디 로과시니 심지어 통조야 더다 그러니까 군조 욕부서를 시기 그래서 내보다 배워라 어디 배워라
So we know when not to give, when we are not ready, even if we are ready, it's the wrong, it's not the much greater purpose and the wrong recipients, all of that. So we know, let's assume we know when to give our flesh and bones, things like that. In terms of giving, okay, now we talk about, there are beings who literally thrive on our flesh and bones, right? That's their need. Now, if it's the right time and it fulfills the greater purpose, we should give that, right? That's what the Bodhisattvas do. We, in the sense, we're talking in terms of Bodhisattvas, not we. But another way is to give one's body to others means, we offer ourselves to serve the needs of the sentient beings in the form of a servant. Sometimes even the text they might write as a slave. So, I know there's a problem, the word with the slave, but. And so as Geshe explained, that often in our different forms of practice, right, Sutra and Tantric as well, when we do sadhana, there are many things, as part of practice, we said, I'm going to offer everything I have, my body, my resources, my roots of the virtue, and one and all, and I'm offering you. Right? So one is all means nothing's left now, right? So which means we offer everything we have to Buddhas and enlightened beings. Okay. So now Buddhas don't need our flesh and bones, right? They don't need our body really. But still we said we're going to offer you. So what does that mean? Is we know enlightened beings of the Buddhas, they have only one interest and one job, right? Without which they will be jobless. They didn't say that in the Lamrim, but So their only job and interest is how can I benefit sentient beings and help them be enlightened. So that is what Buddhas want. And now we offer ourselves to the Buddha as please use me in any way you want. Like, I want to be your servant, I want to be your assistant, I want to be your associate, whatever you want me to do, because your interest is to benefit sentient beings, and use me in some way to benefit sentient beings, please, right? That's the form of offering ourselves to Buddha.
Kevayoris, Chile, Tingo Tambol Night, two go Miron Direta, and the Rabjunda Ganji, Yene Ravaji, teaching so John of the Digana, and Gondalia say Diamara, which is a Tejomaris, Cosona. Tenikaza, Dabusa, that Ginger is going Jimiron, Domba Domzongela, say, Kasi, Casa, Hedel, Segun Hammer Chivateratan. And the show at the chin up down, you but not dog but you crabby, so don't there what done. Goes on the sham is like Chang Midon, the dollar, so don't give a Sadung Sheban de young, the dog longy the Murim, Domba and Devalla, Gobalas over the dog, yes, Baba Tewa, 동아라 릭버 다 가자 동아 릭버 다데지 가와 조정 가와 조정 민자와의 뉴진의 심보등 처시 인어방 시베스 미소와 쟁에와 용어는 보통 추모로서 왔대와 다디 들려야 간제 rabjungduzal da dije se kezi tüz rungwa ina ene sozu se lakma rabo dire jo mare se ene yang se lakma me na yang pge karsa tokba rure da sangma me si pge ta karsa tobe ba de dire tong jo mare se dine gozon da ene chamo dong changlia ene gogwa me za ko de o dire de jo mare se da yu go me ro dire do wa so what da ges baba te wa da di gobangus me na ganje da tinde gozon da chang de de da ji ba de go wa de jo ma res o del da lik to ma lik ba da de jin se go a ju chu jang de men za wa de ni je ro wa tu zo da ga ma de chin bi ngo do mai bi chen ne bi ju zen de she ne in the rat in the Kota Regora. That not the show those. She not the and she knows that the Domba did a long she do cousin and she knows the carrying me show you go. They see. What to say he sent you was got to see that. Karsa, Geshe, Tunga Ligba Karsa, that aging say Gawa Gyeltsen, Menzawa the New the simple name that shall he knew about. Shiba miso jingama namji longala putusuma direta sede tenen digrowa sedata midugja dire jiba ngeba tu pude loma chuma de trebena en kunzu seya de gajung ma shi pejo loba tang yorowa kunzu pe yokbo de shi da nya den de digorowa sede de delia en putusuma de yo ma shi wa.
So we are on page 132 and 133. So the caption reads, how not to give outer things. Remember earlier I said things that bodhisattvas can give can be classified into those who, that are associated with your, conjoined with your consciousness, flesh, blood, bone, marrow, all of that, and things which are not associated with your consciousness, which are the external things. So now we already talked about the first category, and the second one is the external things that have no direct, link to your mind or the consciousness. And so there are 5 things mentioned again at the bottom of page 132, inappropriate givings. The first one is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time. Okay? So that is, the example given here is, we must not, give what we call afternoon meal and evening meal to, monastics, because they have the vow not to eat anything after noon and then in the evening, so that's inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of time, because they have a vow not to eat afternoon meals. Or that when somebody is doing a Nyungne retreat, fasting retreat, right? As a part of that, so you have committed not to eat, so we are not going to give now meal or anything in the afternoon. Or then maybe you are taking one day Mahayana precepts, right? As a part of that, you have a commitment not to eat, afternoon. So at such time, don't give such things, even if we are very capable, because that's inappropriate giving in terms of time factor. The second one is inappropriate giving from the viewpoint of the gift. In other words, what are the inappropriate things to give? Okay? So a number of things Geshe mentioned that say not to give, for example, for the monastics or others, like your leftovers, right? Because that's an inappropriate gift, leftover. Or what we call double dip things, right? Maybe that's not in the Lamrim, but yes, leftover is mentioned, and not to give, so for example, alcohol or intoxicating drink to someone, right? Even if that's going to make somebody happy, but can't give. Or that maybe they have some kind of vow, I don't know, like other issue reasons, not eat garlic, not eat onions, right? Not eat this kind of food restrictions. So don't give the things they have a food restriction, right? That's inappropriate, material giving. But at such times, use the communication skill. Explain to them. Now, I'm not making this one up because, I'm a communication professor, right? But as Geshe said, use the communication skill to clarify to them, you know what? I know you asked me for alcohol, and I am capable of giving, but I can't because, of this restriction. I know you asked for this and that. I cannot give you the garlic and the mixed things, produce of that because of those restrictions, whatever case may be. So explanation is important, so we have no misunderstanding. And then, of course, bodhisattvas, as we said, because they dedicated everything. If these are lay bodhisattvas, right, they have their family members. They have husband, wife, children, all of that. So pretty much they said, I'll give all my families to your benefit, right? So should anyone ask for your son or a daughter or a wife or a husband, right, important to use the wisdom. Be smart, right? Don't give your family members to the wrong people, right? And there are people who might ask for, like, hey, I like your son or daughter, give it to me. And then we don't know what they're going to do. Like they're going to abuse them, or they're going to make, kill them. We don't know. So don't do that.
Sadhu mitra ba the tree is a drama gajeta. Sadhu mitra ba ningma the mazu so rebo.
No.
Young or the day, but the young control and the in the young kaji because the dengage on the bed, swimmers in Hirasani and Nayajorava. Is that the day in the bed, young Twisho, down because show me those games he says, because the Geshe, what is Kita out Taco Nagres and any Cantato long in Mati, Tizum Shawi is a could not do Roa. Then the husband see by Shea says Sobas in the country. Do I get a sense of the Lumbatil Dakaji? Say Yaga, the Yaga. The Sevas the Sava the Nimbe Seva de Mari. Say Sevas say Yaga. That way, you child of the Goyas and Daco, meet big neighbor of Shea, and say you Shimbo Goyas say no, copy Zumarva, what did the day Yomar.
No, so. And of course, we must not give, outdated old food to others, because it's too old to be eaten. The date expired, so can't do that. Or that we know that, we're capable of giving, somebody's enjoying, what we give, especially the food we all love to eat, right? But then we know you got an eating problem, there is a food addiction. So that will lead to obesity. Now, I didn't make that one up. It just came up. I was even surprised, like, hey, obesity is recognized in Lamrim. So then we know, well, you are binge eating, so I know you don't need that much. You are happy, you are full, but you're still binge eating, so I cannot give you now anymore. So no binge eating, there. Because binge eating leads to obesity, so that's the hypothesis. And then I think the Tibetan word is fresh, literally translating fresh food. I don't know how they translate it here, tasty food or some wholesome food or something. The fresh does not necessarily mean cook it fresh, grow fresh. What it really means is, what is considered as the most delicious, nutritious food in your locality, right? And that's good for the health. That is we call fresh food in Tibetan, right? Soba. But fresh doesn't mean just cook it now, chop, 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 right? That doesn't necessarily mean that. That's soba they can culture level.
La Madrid, Dejo Marso. Sazam Sibacha, the Dabby Givos or
That's right.
Says Jushamus house and the good says Jushamus Jumarwa.
Right.
Or did Dejo Marso?
I think that, yes, translated as tasty food, right? So that means, maybe somebody has a desire for such a food. If we know that their digestive system is not up to the par, they can't really, process it, then don't give such a nutritious food. That's the idea. Yeah.
Oh, that in the Mudijan, any big to Nangbechuria, and the Zuba girls have been in living the Nangbechu, live the long. Young men and young quality living the duration parts on she and the nord of the long jokes. What in this summer 同学3번 매버시 거기서 3번 연보였나 근데 제조 말했어 다 배제 제조 말했어 어때 되면은 다양 거는 되고 거와
And then it says, how is it translated here? Giving scriptures to non-Buddhist philosophers who have commercial interests, are seeking points of criticism, and do not want to learn the meaning of scripture. Yeah? So as anybody who we call Tritikas, non-Buddhists, right? If out of really interest, respect they ask for Buddhist texts or, resources, that's another matter. But if they have a hidden agenda, right, just their whole agenda is to find out, how to kind of, torn apart the whole Buddhist philosophical viewpoints or something, or that, they just want to, get that book and, sell it for some bucks, few bucks, so that they can, use it. So with such intention, they ask we should not give the gifts of the scriptures and the texts and the resources to them.
어디 가서 어디写的 다 상사들도 송바디 예버 상세는 남바들라 버도어 소시 레버샤데 다 단다 시대데 공급대 상사가 단다 사대에는 된라버 도와서죠와 어디나 이다 막 시긴 송어서와 다 상사래 때가 된라버 도와리서와 그들 최일림은 기스바 노아 나 시바 싫어지는 시바나 칸나마도다 제와 요로세 최일림은 기스바 뭐 집에 싫어지는 집에서는 칸나마도 집에 다다들이야 근데 집에서는 미신 거와 그래서 근데 그 집에 소도 끼우들게 애들 낭배실 용주시야도다 야면은 리문존이 얘는 단다 파존선데 돈 그때 동양 사업도 그 리문 거 동시에 냠슬린데 맨날 리문제 좀을라와 어다디 대제베는 아니 단다디 네바 요르세디오 콩디디 된라베도 롱데이 말아도와 조로세 대달라 진배실 현라 현달라 롱하시느냐 칸나모도 지원 조로세 대달라 진배실 현달라 롱하시느냐 팀이다 다 모디제 디델제야 돈달 소소르메나 근데 퀄데야 돈달 현다 탑지로 시디데제나 제조 말에 시고서 요봐 게데 대다기 최상문은 진슈버당 뭐버 샤뉴스 인야바 됐다고 권에 셈지바시는 칸나마다 메도 다 들으면서 다 무대제도 낭배 쉴 때는 코로나스비게 쉴 상예성이 이쁘게 딱지로 버시는 추 놓고 그야 상로 된데原그 뭐지는 되는 데 그래서
So we're on page 133. We have, huge passage quoted from what we call compendium of determination, as a part of bodhisattva levels or bodhisattva bhumi. Okay? And the things we just already talked about, where is the source for that, if you ask? So the source is bodhisattva bhumi or bodhisattva levels, and within that is this particular level called compendium of determination. And as Geshe explained, so basically, childish sentient beings, right? Childish in the sense that we are really lacking the intelligence, maturity, but yet, we want everything and do everything. So as for, let's say, if a childish, person, including non-Buddhist, as for Buddhist texts or scriptures, the whole idea is I just want it for commercial reason. I just want to sell and make few bucks and have life. So can do that. If we give, it's going to be a misdeed or it's going to be a fault, as we say. Misdeed is translated. Even if we don't have, but we said, okay, let me ask my friends, check with others, I'll try to find the text for you. No, don't do that. You don't need to do that, because of their hidden agenda and all of that. But if the others, here the mention are the non-Buddhist, they call philosophers or followers, if they are really interested, right? They don't have such hidden agenda, negative motivation. They just are interested. What is there in Buddha's teaching, or maybe they want a comparative study, or maybe they just heard something about Buddhism and they want to study for themselves, analyze it, find out, and maybe that might inspire them, right? That might say, change of heart. I don't know. So then it's okay to share the resources or make the gift of Buddhist text resources.
Yo de da karsa kana ma do me do shi ke de tambe ji chue de je be den ju chue be limus da kan ji chue lo da ga chue lo be chue sig ma re chue ma yin ba ta ge den da de ju mo bo yo ro wa o de den ju de ne karsa chue le de ba yu ge de le de den ju de chue ju ya ji bo ya men de de ju lo ba de so so de ye ne chue le de ge de pa de bo ja bo yang现在咱能的我的那个等于老把这边现在你看到没多要热死他过去的地方要了哇但是个这样的个我你去买不东西等于这个了哇我的是我这里去吧冷多吧是的说的月吧的是吧说的月的这样些让啥的持续吧些现在冷的这样看这些嘛现在看这看大家我听这个现在你去了别说都这样行了你看到没多有热死我
At the bottom of page 133, the second paragraph of the long quotation, I'll read it, your translator has a little problem with the way it is translated, but who am I to say? I'm the worst translator here. But it reads, Bodhisattvas erase the written texts of non-Buddhist philosophers that they have in their possession and so on. But that's how it doesn't come out in the Geshe's explanation. This I don't think it's not mention of non-Buddhist even philosophers. What it really means is, the text or the materials that are chola means, they contain the messages that are contradictory to the Dharma. That's what it is, right? And of course, they didn't give an example here, so I'm not going to use it. But we know all kinds of stuff that are contradictory to the Dharma. Okay. So such materials, we the practitioner must not have in our possession, and we should not, spread them, distribute them to the others, especially the, spiritual practitioners. Like, hey, read this interesting material here. That's something, don't do that because that's going to be disturbance to them, right? Any materials that are against undermining the Dharma, we call it chelo, means contradicting, undermining the Dharma. It doesn't say non-Buddhist, per se. So that's why I just. So we must not ourselves own things in the possession, and we must not distribute and encourage others to read such materials.
Oh dear, that Living trees ma lang do ba te yang chi de sang yi song ro ye ge zhe shu da ni ye ji mo me de guan de yong xie ba xia yi xian da lan yang ma li ba huan na zha ba shou de da ga ji su su la ba le ye be ne living ti de da pe sa de de si ge wa wo pe sa de pa di dang bu yi ge pa chi ni de ge xie yi ge xian da pa de si ge wa xi xie na ge me yo sa de wa chi de sang yi song ro ye ge zhe shu ba sa de xian da da bây giờ hiện tại thì phải chính xác là anh thấy phát hiện thì phải chú ý phải số ta rồi thế này, những sáng chế số hiện tại thì anh riêng rồi, ở thiên địa xe anh cái啥số lượng nhiều vậy thế, nhưng mà mình tôi còn nói xe mà cha gì, hiện tại là mà lưu còn là đâu mà hiện tại số lượng thiên địa sử dụng mà gì, anh hiện tại số lượng cái ta cái lắp ráp cho là anh thiên địa sử dụng mà gì lắp ráp cho rồi, cái chuyện nghe一个人呢，说不定用就现在这样子要了，我的就嘛的是，所以嘛这些现在了嘛是什么的，嘛是拉不过来，这是能拉过来啊。
So at the bottom of page 133 or page 134, what's stated there is, of course, this is for a bodhisattva, and for us to that if we find like stacks of papers that are already printed out with the Dharma materials or the information, then we must not erase all of that and then write over something, or use that whole blank space now. If we can erase them completely, we have blank papers, then we write something on that, or we can write over some don't do that, and don't encourage others to do that as well.
어디 다 되는 걔들 가서와 리브 마지버 롱아시 오나 성주세 메텔 지지 차시 용수 저와자디 걔들 종了용수龙节와 쇼게세는 성주세 메비 걔들 리브디 최기 다고셰바시는 데데델 짐버 메샤와 제 리도는 리점버쇼 걔들 리 메도나니 니가 마지장 안 카나모도 메도 어디면다 다 가서 리브 마지발롱 롱아시 오나 간제 다초 그게 보드로 롱오나 숨베 엔 초디 리운데 가르치기면 더다도 가르치기 인스 바 제고레스 에는가도 존디 가서 림바 롱지기 인스네 인데 대요 말레스 엔 저르베 리운데 엔 초 마디베 들야 엔 초노 데데 종야이나 엔 리운데 림베 쇠디 베샤도 자라 현다 제고스 어디시 데다 제기면스 어디도 세시시 대요 말레스 어디레시
So we are on page 134. On the top, what it said is, should anybody sort of thing ask for, let's say, a Buddhist text, right? And then you ask the reason, why are you asking me for that? Why you need that? And should the person say, you know what, honestly, I just need the money, so I want, something to sell and get the money. And then, of course, we should say, you know what, well, I cannot give you the text, but I have this other thing which has equal value to this text you're going to sell and get the money. I'll give that to you, or I might give you the money, right? In place of the text you're asking, if that's the money you want, right? I'll give it to you, right?
어디 답이지 대샤오문들 참스 비세면도.
And so we will stop there today, and we welcome your questions and observations. Page 134. Anybody wants?
I have a question about the non-Buddhist philosophers here.
Right.
Now, their teaching, the one that has to be erased or
right.
destroyed, does it have to contradict the Dharma explicitly, or does it have to be written with the intention of contradicting the Dharma, or merely contain information that's implicitly contradicting of the Dharma?
Okay. Tandadi kendi about Sherlock Roagan, that Shungsa or the Sosoga, you Mamilbe Malawagan. Sherlock said the council ne Sanjig Panyameta and other wagon. Delia and that shirt the Lobadro that the native cigar, yeah. She not have tea savage, most that in the Gulonja tea or Marwa, and when I need to use or what. But then you got cigar, Carsagor, a Cholog, the mother that mother says.
Oh, Cholo said that that should have the should be in the pig, so the long door here, because the head of Jagi, or today on that that the best law said the today. Said that tell the law in the brigade, you did the want the gas swimming. 미국에 닉밥이 지역 주주 좀 말이다. 초기 쇼진세 저거다. 걔는 마작당으로 요 말아봐. 어디 있어?
알다디 티바보기 꾸노이 메게자 이말
근데 어떤지 들으시고 있어라.
I think Geshe said, when we talk about texts or materials that go against the Dharma or undermine the Dharma, it doesn't have to be something that an author has intentionally written, right, to undermine it. It might contain certain information. Now, the two examples Geshe has given me, this works. For example, things about like materials about the warfare, right, how to strategize, kill people, right, sneaky, smart way kind of thing. That's not the right thing, even though they may not have written it to contradict the Dharma per se, but because that material, the whole warfare is against, right? All the animal rights, how to kill the animals, right, in certain ways for the animal right rituals, right? That is again something contradictory, right? Any other thoughts? Yes. Yeah.
I just asked about teaching on the 25th and the 1st of January. So we have the
24th and 5th.
So 25th.
Okay. Yom Arua. 25th is Christmas, right? I remember one of our students who passed away. He said, "Happy Buddha Christmas," Tenzin. I remember him. So we observed that. So no class teaching on Christmas, 25th.
So no on 25th and the first one of January, no?
Yes, I think looks like you saw the Yahoo group. Are you on that list? Yes, no Sunday teaching on 25th and January 1st.
No,
Yeah.
no for both.
Yeah. 알뭐 디세세세다 살방어 저게 크리스마스 라 송주 여마로하게 다리식을 양가 콤금면도 가 매바게. I just have to tell Geshe what happened. Yes,
There's certain vows that we take about not giving teachings to people that are unripe,
yes.
and like we're talking about these books, you know, and like we could be giving a book on emptiness to somebody that's really could be very confused, and it could
Right.
generate all sorts of
Right.
craziness in their head.
Right.
Well, should we be giving books like that, and how do we know what
Right.
kind of results
That would be
it's
right.
going to have in
Sure.
the mind of the people we give these kind of books to?
Okay, wonderful, great question. Yeah, very relevant. Kona kan show this ko ge ta tanda de pen data ta cholo the ge ta tebro ge pen ma jab dan so ba chu jin ti ju fung ro wa kona di ting du sa pen nga chu ge debi ne ro ge ta pen nyo de mi ro ma che ya ani chi te ju ma sa ro wa ge ten ju ma sa ro wa pen chi tong ni ke ka sa da nyu ro ma yin be ro wa ge tong ni den be shung ji te ro che la ne te be ne ro wa ge 동료 고주 매버지 고로 롱바전에 로바게 남도 롱바강 라 로바 안에 베트 캔서 차로 로바게 지들이 님이 2050 차금에 로바게 어딘데래 베나 동이 된베 슝저버데 고 뉴로면나 되지 요마로 스텝에는 예바 친구 여러 간데 레사겐디
동이 때문에 형들도 간제 접시.
다자네 동이라게 고 뉴로면 베처로바게 동이 베그 데블로는 고 루그룹전에 로바게 배도 거나 탑배 가서 딱 거기도 남아서 채달 홍도 딱 건조 좀 그러게
어레레레.
근데 이번에는 이제 되지 요마로 해서 제비나 예버치
저 피질 되대.
그다 가서 그냥 라 상황 가야 저러게 마음에 상 nga 대전 지금 말보다 저러게
다디
대박
samlo 다고 롱게 디게 아니 그런 다고 디데 시도 여자래서 그 삼바타고 시대 했는데 다가 그다 동이 된게 제시나 피지 콜데 니바 좀
뉴로맨에게
누르면나 그 누르 시야다 그 펜토라도 제고로 와
맞네
다 디네 매 다도 현다도 가서 콜 로정신의 파로보들 누르로 와 단다디 그는 강사 그는 표지도 더 마시는 뭐 저 그는 걸 누야요 말봐
no so
디쳐가지도
Geshe feels maybe there could be a distinction between that too, right? So your example of how, you know, when somebody is not ripened enough for, let's say, emptiness teaching, right? But as for emptiness textbook or something, we give, and then that's going to create a whole misunderstanding. So let's assume that. And the difference between that, giving that kind of gift or giving the gift of the warfare to our practitioners or Dharma or something. He thought in the case of this other one, your example, let's say that a person is not ready, not ripened to understand emptiness, but as with, you know, no hidden agenda or bad motivation, right? It's just curious, right? I just want to know. Then I think it's okay to give because that person, you know, because the text does not contain any false information, and the person has no hidden agenda to do anything. So he thinks it's okay. But what we talked about right now in the Lamrim context is the things that are contradictory to the text, to the Dharma, warfare, animal rights, well, maybe if you allow me with my footnote, I didn't use any footnote, right? Phonographic things, right? All that's right, the racy and crazy things. Well, that is going to be disturbing and against the Dharma, right? So not to give that, because that's going to, disruptive to the Dharma. So he thought maybe there's a distinction, we don't know, we have to think about it, right? Yeah. Any other thoughts? Maybe the young people want to ask questions. Harry, you want to ask questions? No. Anybody behind the glass wall? If not, then oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. I like it.
going back to the text that we're giving. Now, my understanding is, but basically giving any text that has nothing to do with Buddhism, Western philosophers, for example, or even romantic literature,
Right, romantic, yes.
or
Yeah.
novels and things like
Right.
that. Even though celebrated.
Right.
As
That
being,
could be, yes, that's
yeah.
true.
So
yeah.
every realm of this.
No, I don't know everything. Let's say this is my take. Okay, not Geshe was saying Western philosophies. That we want to do comparative philosophical, right? That may contradict or critique Buddhist viewpoint. I think that's okay, different. But romantic literatures, pornography, materials, and warfare and love and all. Crazy love, all of the maybe.
But including, let's say, the great works of literature.
Oh, the great works of literature. Okay, now I can ask that,
yeah.
right?
And including
Right.
philosophies, which are philosophers, Western philosophers, like
Right.
which they describe the nature of reality,
Right.
and which contradicts Buddhism.
Right.
So just
How about
reading
those?
them
Right.
reading them, if we are reading them, doesn't that actually impair our wisdom, and giving them to others actually impair the other people's
Okay,
wisdom?
sure. 그랑 디스그르겐다 베나 다다가나 저기다 최게 마인베게다 링네기 대비 여러 와게 대 자신부터 여러 와게 리베이션로 제샤버로 버든데 여래다 대 디체디다 코나다 누조브 페샤기도 와게 아 제나 딘데 탭디에 아니 로베네 나라조 로베네 고 딱가서 그래게 최대 저와 여마로와 진짜 최대 점게 여버든데 이즈나 데 만디브 차대 여마로 베사로 와게 링네기 대비든데 여러 와다 년라진 링네 대몽로야 와게 다른 소설 라면에 소설 뒤에 다 쳐야 게로 그래 밀테베네 거디 차루로 와게
다 지단 리다 링네 디시네 페이지를 지다 매일 편도 통다지 페이지를 링네 보가 별이 편도 영화 통다 인구 말에 인구로 와 디시네 예바이지 말에
no so Geshe say, thinks that maybe the great literatures, because they can really expand your critical thinking. So he thought maybe that's a different category, Yeah. Any other thoughts? No. Okay.
What about,
yes, Harry wants. That's good.
So since we're on the notion of sharing and passing on resources,
Right.
I guess one of the things in the 21st century, right, is other mediums of
Right.
of resources. So
Right.
not just books and texts now.
Right.
What if in the form of movies and podcasts and
Right.
and audiobooks and stuff like that. So how can you really tell between somebody's curiosity, and then their intention, because
Right.
now they can easily find documentaries and
Right.
even on Netflix and
Right.
things about Buddhism, and then there's a sense of speculation, but there's sense
Right.
of skepticism and curiosity and mysticism. So
Right.
it's like if they express a sense of wonder, and they ask you about it, do you share what you know, or you point them in what kind of direction, if you know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Very good question. Yeah. 다 그런 condition disorder kita tentang kanzupena 다 chologi 다 depth in the page you message or wage 다 tingsa tuzo yune 다 depth go ke se mare chaje yulam de yulam mangban an tama yor wage tingsa longye ta ro longye ma draman tang go ro wage 다 begin ne ju yune lungba kan de se sha sha yor wa miso so so gi ta test na ing rab che ben kar che je ro wage an dinan ne ju lokba mangbo yor ro wage mani ba mangbo yor so wa 단 니네가 내가 jel이야 아니 배소소리야 지금 미치기 즉 테러지스 라베나 그kulon 디로가게 양다선 롱구여나 야마나다 지 간데스 달고 kulon 지지셔도 가보차도 로와스로가게 계세 덴데스 라베나 아니 양 소소기다 하고베기 다 걸서고래 대답 내주 되게 들어가게 카조로버디 덴데 친나 디그레스 라면 디게나 서로와 덴데 덴데 따다 로가게 다가래 친나 디스
강제 디데다 근데 제동 매일 비게 팬도 멤버 노야 레게다 대주 다부 자제 용으로 다 디레가 고군도 처럼데 이제 가정한 접대시 탑시시세야 디레지베 디레지 디베제 다 계속 노야에 무슨 하고 있나 피지마데는 되게죠. 되게 하고 뭐세나 되게라.
No, sir.
그
That's the thing is again, sure, the Japanese, the benefits that you among side that Chagian Lamnikin Ram and the Temo and Ramatan to the Geshe. That detail they can pass to Debbie, not up with the Chadu.
드저다 비지를 되죠. 당한테 남인기 그 추억이 기억을 두고 오라. 대티 때문 담에 지상신은 비지를 편도라디 매라.
Darwa. Cholotel Chalo.
식바두리다.
Now, Geshe says, yeah, now the challenging is the world has changed. It's not only the hard copies we are talking about, that's how traditionally, you see the social media, as you said, podcasts and in Twitter, Instagram, and all of those things happening. And there's so much information out there, right? And the good ones and the complete false information, everything is very hard to, find out which is what is true. And like say if somebody asks you, it's very hard to kind of detect or decode people's motivation. Are they sincerely asking or out of curiosity or some hidden agenda, right? That stuff. But let's assume that you know some information, less about Buddhism, whatever you read. If you think that's the right one, it's okay to point in the right direction, But should they ask you for materials that sort of undermine or contradict Dharma, right? I don't know, it could be very racy movies or something or some other things. Then I think sharing that might amount to, right? That wrong, right? Sharing. So we should be careful with that, right? Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm going to go back to Vladimir's questions on this written, erasing the written text. I guess I'm still not clear why erase the text, really. You would think that, you would
It's
think
a mistake, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess, what's really the purpose of erasing? Or you would think that you would want those texts so you can use it to...
Right. Okay, I'll ask for the clarification, sure. Then again, the songs on the Shung Tisha with the Subin says you're walking, says the dequal says not on the Rogain. Don't with the Carisian and deep sub to work on Tondar of the Carrier Rogain. When I say also that Tona, you were saying, Shungara, even Kupita dead or Rogain. Depa sub and the Tisha, they call Tonda Kugus or Rogain. Did Kobajum and Carrier, did it chicken swear or so that they could
that Kaji the rest of Karsa, the doing kitchen teacher and the pass up Javotom until she Savatia, the Kaji in your way.
No, sir.
Or did I got that you get the Chung Yabo in the Sobnigoma, this what you get Tasirova, Raja Shagoris. Today she again on the mission and today she go Mars, loves the Jagoris. So in the today she go Maris.
Then according to Kugu, some of the Carson Sugars, then the Sungan and the Kobajum.
So yeah, the Koran did well that. Karsa, the most of not did that Koran the young the cooking card of the payment of the Chagara. Then do the Sopian, could Javoji Tishana, and the Koran the Tata, Toda country when she theatre. That the teacher, the Javo, the Tiakashi, Lucina, co-payment of the Java of the Chagmare. But the Chidal, the Soya, going to the song, you get to the song, younger Tiadua. The shoe Koran chat today, Sunga, your show. Because the subs, she said, the sober Tanga.
The can sub said the Kodan, the Pesa de Dindelia, so that can do much in Shuta and again. The sub said, the Dela Kugu again.
Tea somebody. This is the Koran nutrition is a rock. Shutatanga, me, Yago, the family, Madame Siju, the Mare, come to chin it up. And Shandat is Lado.
Well, honestly, we don't know the reason why somebody would do that, but what is mentioned is somebody purposely erase, let's say, what's written on a Dharma page or a folio or something, and then you use the blank space or whatever to write whatever you wanted to write about, right? So don't do that. But I asked for the reason, why would anybody do that in the first place? He said, I don't know, people do crazy things, so yeah.
Can it be like a practical reason? Paper was not so readily available in those days. It was a luxurious item.
Right.
It's not like you could just throw it in and get another paper from the shop. There was no shop.
That the time there's a amount again. Teaching individually, that also were that should the combo again. But the next channel, what didn't say they were need to check you and Karina, so that didn't again the consequences you met the again.
That the name is Rosimendo. That Zodos and that day in Zari Kanje. call pick the patient to hear to Majusene and so Yadan, take Shan Shamor. That is Sugal Hamayana, and go Chesaji Radaragra. Zu the Eagles of the country, you get Nazi pay Karsat, and Shugujo, the Geshe, the Geshe Yomare, or the Geshe.
Or maybe that could be reason in ancient time, papers are not plentiful. But this may be related to what Geshe thinks as a part of our refuge practice, right? Going for refuge in Dharma, we learn to respect even one syllable na that reflects Dharma as if it were Dharma, right? So if one syllable na symbolize Dharma in the Dharma context, then erasing the whole text or a line or whatever, that constitute undermining the Dharma. And also he thinks not only necessarily erasing, but let's say there could be a little bit of space in the paper or whatever case may be, then you just fill it in, or whatever things may be. That could be part of that,
Seems very interesting to me because as we're going through the Buddhist tenets, we're listening to other non-Buddhist philosophies. And I'm assuming these are actually written now. So I don't know. I just think it's a somewhat contradicting.
Right.
So.
I want to do something is again. Kachin did this on the cholo that the Kuku is Rabena. Da sort of Nangbe member Tawa Mongolang Yendigo again, go to the Mawa, then you got to do that, the gate, to do that, the Dini test of my things to Tongus again. Sure the gas as your again, the Kodan, the Yakume and the Kazaya, Nangbe Shuman with Tawa, then you got to go again. And the exam that Nangbe Shun the get a better than again. Said the court did a digital with the gather show than which she do so. That in my years ago, again.
To this you go, that did I also be. 더다 여보 셴네 애들 시로 철로는 리거랑 거 무드시 가서 시도 근데 시도 다 남배시 시도 인로고요나 무드시 시도 체크해서 되면 일로 쇼 말에 또 쇼쇼 그러와 그때 가지 남배시로 좀 망하지 무드시 좀 용어시고 다 뭐 넣어도 되다 아무도 되게 무드시로 시야시게서 여봐라 어디 되도 와셔도 지지데 되도 제가 당시 시야 돈달이야 애니 빼는 봐 무디시도 여보 로지시도 달래 애는 상예셔야 예반이야데도 용말에 어딘데서 로 쇼거래 되게 가야지만
What Geshe wants to say is just because we simply either read books about philosophies or things that are non-Buddhist in nature does not necessarily constitute what we call contradicting Dharma per se, or listening to other philosophers about their philosophy, which may perhaps be a great critique on Buddhism, right? But that's fine in ancient India. As a matter of fact, many top Buddhist masters, they read non-Buddhist texts, right, to find out what they have said, and that also inspired them to develop, greater faith in Buddhist teachings. And as a matter of fact, like this example, we said that top-notch, scholars, if they read in, 2 hours Buddhist texts, they might spend half an hour reading non-Buddhist texts, so because that's how the whole Buddhism flourished, through reading other philosophical texts and critiquing them, right, with not out of malicious intention, but out of what we call respect and that. So I think that's a different then. It's nothing to do with contradicting Dharma or anything like that. If that's the reason, we know why we are reading some text, right, to enhance our critical thinking, to be able to compare and contrast the Buddhist and non-Buddhist philosophy, and maybe we have our own intelligence enough that now we might develop more inspiration and faith in wow, so that's a different matter of reason. Okay, yeah.
Isn't that what we're studying? Isn't that the Dubdo?
No, yes, okay. Alors, c'est que 가장 아주 두대 시에대로 하게 두대 나려야다 두대 담아다다 낭배 두대 치도 시에디 다가 차대로 와서게 가서 올다 취업 그거 좀 전에 다 두대 담아다 거로 하게 신앙 그 두대로 하게 이 다가 차대로 와서 그거 좀 전에 유에서 치료비 두대 따게로 오다 어디서 거로 that's right. Yeah, because of a greater purpose in ancient Buddhist and also right in the tenets that we talk about. Non-Buddhist presentations of things and different schools of Buddhist presentation of things, and we critique and learn from each other. Right?
그래서 능배답에 치료부 그 줍다 두가가 해가도 콘절 쩨바 신도 체네 텐데디 제주시고 말와
그렇죠.
다 콘도데 가서 가서 낭베신의 다 군에 럭바를 그래도 다 초구 쉬진다 저도 베지 가서 하고요 럭바를 와
네.
제가 딜은 도야 돈달 지지시 그런 데들이 하마고네요
네.
시도 말와
네.
어디래와
I think in ancient India, Buddhist world, so many of the top-notch scholars, they studied in-depth non-Buddhist philosophies, right? Not out of some malicious intention, how can I win the debate or, right, make you lose the point, anything like that. Because they know that they started to talk about the realities and the truths and whatever up to their level, and then they find out and they want to say, you know what? Why don't you look at this from Buddhist perspective? Maybe what they have is completely wrong or deficient, but there's a different point. But they want to say, okay, let's compare the realities as it is, what Buddha has said and what you or your schools has said. So that has actually enhanced the flourishing of Buddhism, right? Yeah.
지금 낭베 때주 비지다 다른 저는 도와서 리바시라 말이지 남제 파시서 어머도 리바 휴죠 말에 민대서 가야로 뭐 휴죠라 제가 때 어머 주고 그래서 땡줄에 저 샤비지 만데 나르지 되니 뒤에 남바셔봤네 휴휴 집어지는 예바 밀세라 제가 어머 종니 리바 뭐보셔야 될 현을 저바 지야 돈달에 시험 가래서 그래서 심지어는 남줄에 거야 돈다 양다만 지야 돈다 쉬어래시 तातिले शेदे यो मुदि तिले गकवान दुगु ना तिले येबा यो मारस को कौनसु गा संग मरदि को नि तिले फादे त को दिगेता शाद को रजु गा दे छ मारे तिले येबा यो मारस को
when we look into the Buddhist great treatises or the shastras or the fields of study, maybe treasure of knowledge, Abhidhamma Kosha, Vinaya, moral discipline, they have a less of what we call debate and argumentations, right? But texts like Pramana Vartika, Valid Cognitions, Madhyamika, they contain a lot of philosophical debate and argumentations, isn't it? And so in the process of that, establishing the realities as they are, the Buddhist masters started to make reference to non-Buddhist schools of thought, other Buddhist schools of thought. This is how they have asserted it. But then from this point of view, there is a fallacy or a problem in this issue, so they're debating it. So their whole motivation is not to make them lose the debate and make them win. They said, our task is to be able to understand and describe realities as they are. In the process of that, what you have talked about is really not fitting into that, so therefore it ends up critiquing that. So they're not criticizing, that's not their job, but in the process of establishing the realities as they are, so they started to talk about other philosophies and end up critiquing them. Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll stop there today and do our prayers and dedication. Kange Lord Dimye Dede Ninda Nanda Raseve Shinye Dungu Sheshe Sije Nije Suwam Dewamze Kangra Sebe Zora Maru Mendon Dungu Yeseve Dozo Gola Puje Daze Yala Doje Yongden Son Joda Zero Nyamo Nilo Leye Chakro Treze Je Mare Muze Dungu Nyungu Shinye Juze Radina Dene Daje Saju Dazo Yonde Lozo Yese Tuwe Goju Daulu meze jambe yonglang de omara bazanda omara bazana de zenden kyeje cherawe jeje daulu temu mumbar rasene kada deje shulu tongwa ye lodu pove na wan zendo Lord Gyeltsen, Ushun Bega de Gesang Pongye Shudu Memba Ye, Demba Zela, Ondo Ji Shube, Tanye Shogun Chala, So on the page 21. Obeisance to my Guru and Protector Manjushri, who holds at his heart a scriptural text, symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth as the sun, unclouded by delusions or traitors of ignorance, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of Father for his only Son. All creatures caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You whose dragon thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and free us from the iron chains of our karma. who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You who have been pure from the beginning, who have completed the stages, achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, whose princely body is adorned with 112 marks of a Buddha, I bow down to you, Manjushri, Om Arabhaza Nadi. O compassionate one, with the brilliance of your wisdom, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind. Enlighten my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. Page 31. Like the sweet perfume of white lotus, born in the ocean of knowledge, nourishing honeybees, the fortunate being, your fame pervades all directions. You are proficient and powerful in upholding the precious doctrine. To you, O Lobsang Tenzin Wangda, respectfully I pray. Can you do the Vietnamese chanting?